And this is my continuing coverage of the healthcare law. We are on the bottom of page number 81. It says Part 4, State Flexibility to Establish Alternative Programs. We are now going under Section 1331, which happens to be a palindrome. Alright, that's because when you read 1331 backwards, it's still 1331. Isn't that nice? Just a little FYI for you. Okay. And for those of you who don't know who FYI is, that is for your information. Bing! Okay. State flexibility to establish basic... Let me say that again. State flexibility to establish basic health programs for low-income individuals not eligible for Medicaid. Okay. Alright, so that means that you're in a low-paying job and... say that job doesn't have a health insurance program, you really can't afford to buy your own health insurance program, but because you are actually earning money, you can't get on Medicaid for some dumb reason. This is kind of the same way with the Pell Grants. As soon as you start earning some real income, you're not eligible for the Pell Grant anymore. Don't believe me? Try it. You'll see. Okay. Establishment of the program. In general, the Secretary shall establish a basic health program meeting the requirements of this section, under which a state may enter into contracts to offer one or more standard health plans providing at least the essential health benefits described in Section 1302B, and we did that quite a few videos ago, to eligible individuals in lieu of offering such individuals coverage through an exchange. In other words, when people who are not eligible for Medicaid because they actually do have a job and they're making a halfway decent living, but they cannot pay for health insurance any other way, they can go to these state-run programs. Okay. And these programs will be in the healthcare exchanges. Okay. Certifications as to benefit coverage and costs. Such programs shall provide that a state may not establish a basic health program under this section unless the state establishes to the satisfaction of the Secretary, and the Secretary certifies that in the case of an eligible individual enrolled in a standard health plan offered through the program, the state provides that the amount of monthly premium an eligible individual is required to pay for coverage under the standard health plan for the individual and the individual's dependents does not exceed the amount of the monthly premium that the eligible individual would have been required to pay in the rating area in which the individual resides. Okay, so now we're talking about the monthly premium to have this health insurance. And he's required to pay this. Okay? And it cannot exceed the amount that he would have to pay for another insurance. Okay, let's say he was trying to get private insurance. He doesn't have to pay more to this state health program than he would to, say, some private insurance. Okay. That the cost sharing an eligible individual is required to pay under the standard health plan does not exceed the cost sharing required under a platinum plan in the case of an eligible individual with household income not in excess of 100% of the poverty line for the size of the family involved. In other words, he's not at the poverty line, but he is below the 150% of the poverty line, so that makes him eligible for this. The cost sharing required under a gold plan in the case of an eligible individual not described in subclause 1, and the benefits provided under the standard health plans offered through the program cover at least the essential health benefits described in Section 1302B. Okay, so this thing has to give you basic health insurance, and it can't be over a certain cost. Okay? And remember, if you're not at the poverty line, but you're below the 50% above the poverty line, you can get this insurance. Okay. For the purposes of subparagraph A1, the amount of monthly premium an individual is required to pay under either the standard health plan or the applicable second lowest cost silver plan shall be determined after reduction of any premium tax credits and cost sharing reduction allowable with respect to either plan. So in other words, because you're buying this health insurance from the exchange, you get health credits. And the amount of money you're going to have to pay to this health insurance will be minus those health credits. So you're not going to be paying very much. Alright, standard health plan. In this section, the term standard health plan means a health benefits plan that the state contracts with under this section, under which the only individuals eligible to enroll are eligible individuals, that provides at least the essential health benefits described in section 1302B. And in the case of a plan that provides health insurance cover offered by a health insurance issuer that has a medical loss ratio of at least 85%. Now, I don't know what this medical loss ratio is, but if you guys ever find out, and I may find out in my next video, as a matter of fact, I may make a note of that. Let me go ahead and make a note of that real quick, because I'd like to define for you what it is that they are saying. Okay, so I'm going to define medical. I know you can't see me doing this. But I'm going to define a medical loss ratio for you in one of my future videos. That way you know what this is. Okay. So I wrote the term down. I will define that in a future video. Contracting process. Okay. In general, a state basic health program shall establish a competitive process for entering into contracts with standard health plans under subsection A, including negotiation of premiums and cost sharing and negotiation of benefits, in addition to the essential health benefits described in section 1302B. Specific items to be considered. A state shall, as a part of its competitive process under paragraph 1, include at least the following: innovation, negotiation with offers of a standard health plan for the inclusion of innovative features in the plan, including care coordination and care management for enrollees, especially those with chronic health conditions. So they have to provide for chronic health conditions. Incentives for use of preventive services, and the establishment of relationships between providers and patients that maximize patient involvement in health care decision-making, including providing incentives for appropriate utilization of the plan. So what they're trying to do is saying, hey, we want these patients involved in the decision-making of their health care plan. Okay, that's good. Health and resource differences, consideration of and the making of suitable allowances for differences in healthcare needs of enrollees and differences in local availability of and access to healthcare providers. Nothing in this subparagraph shall be construed as allowing discrimination on the basis of pre-existing conditions or other health status-related factors. So, in other words, if you have a pre-existing conditions, you cannot be denied this particular health insurance that's being provided by the state. Isn't that nice? Alrighty, we are now on the top of page number 83. I'm going to stop this right now, and I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.